I've had some close calls. That intersection of Gospel Lane and Bartlett Street gets noticeably busier whenever the Portland Fair and the Connecticut River close Route 17A, Lower Main Street. The right-of-way issue I just mentioned gets worse as well. Now, we make Strickland Street into a cul-de-sac, and all traffic from the residences east of Gospel Lane and all traffic from the golf courses will now have to go through that intersection. Add the traffic from the closing of Route 17A twice at least yearly, and I think it will be extremely inconvenient, if not dangerous. And there will be increased traffic coming from the park itself. At some point, after who knows how many accidents, the state will likely see the need for a fully functioning traffic light. So if the park is built, I think the town will have to make Strickland Street into a cul-de-sac and suffer the consequences. To me, this cul-de-sac idea is one that works against the idea of having the park at all. I hope this is helpful, even though I won't be able to attend. Perhaps Ann will be there, and I think you might be interested. Oh, then it goes, I guess that's okay to say. His daughter, her immediate response when she saw the plans, she said the wooded area having the cross-country trail, and said, oh, there'll be a new place for people to sell drugs. I really wish the town of Portland would reconsider these plans. Thanks for all you do, and I hope the meeting is helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. Sincerely, Bill Hodge. Now I have a few more. John Manis. Kathy and I at 6 Michael Drive want to go on record as supporting conversion of Strickland Street into a cul-de-sac. We believe creation of this cul-de-sac is essential to preserving safety and security of our neighborhood. Additionally, we feel a tall chain link fence should be provided to separate the recreation complex from the homes on Michael Drive. And I have another one. Hello. I am unable to attend the meeting this evening due to work obligations, but I wanted to weigh in on the issue of the Route 17 recreational complex. I'm a resident of Portland and received the public opinion sought notice. Please let me know if there's anything else I need to do to submit my letter to the minutes, or if you have a question or concern. Here's the letter. It's greatly concerned me to discover the motives of the Route 17 Recreational Complex Committee in Portland. What I see is a big city idea being forced on our peaceful Gospel Lane community by a group of people who don't appreciate what small town charm is all about. If anyone has walked past the designated site of the facility, they would see how close it actually is in proximity to the Gospel Lane community. This proposed complex would bring forth a great change to this area that we know and love, and I, for one, won't stand for it. There are a myriad of reasons that this proposed complex is a terrible idea, but I will highlight some of the obvious ones for the letter. The location is far too small and far too close to the surrounding communities. The costs involved, including the engineering, construction, maintenance of the complex, are totally unacceptable to pass along to taxpayers. With the current state of the economy, and not a single one of the proposed developments resonates with myself or the neighbors I have talked to. First things first, the location being far too small and far too close to the surrounding community. As a resident who lives within walking distance of the proposed site, I find it utterly insulting that anyone would honestly suggest building a recreational complex right in someone else's backyard, as the Route 17 Recreational Complex Committee has done. It does not take an engineer to analyze the incredible impact this would have on the surrounding neighborhood. It would be the end of peace and quiet for anyone in the area. What was once a view of a beautiful field would now be views of parking lots, fences, construction equipment, lights, cars, etc. What was once the sound of nature would now be the sound of motors, whistles, and crowds of people. This would logically progress to a situation where property values for the surrounding community start plummeting, because everyone knows the sentiment of "not in my backyard," and that is exactly what this committee is trying to do, put a monstrosity in our backyard. Moving on to the next issue. The costs involved in this project are totally unjustifiable, in a downtrodden economy where most of us are struggling just to provide our families with the necessities. How can anyone honestly sit here and propose paying for an engineering review on a frivolous project that offers no value to Portland other than recreation? As far as I am concerned, if we have the kind of money to throw away for recreation, we would be better served as a community to cut taxes across the board, or to use the money for things of real value like road maintenance and the upkeep of existing public property. That being said, let's say we do go forward with the project against all reasonable objections. How do we plan on maintaining the facilities if they are constructed? Are we going to hire a groundskeeper? Who would pay for that? The taxpayers? How would we maintain security at the complex? Hire a night watch? No. We would lock the gate, wouldn't we? This means the field would be fenced in all the way around, which looks hideous and is just another needless expense. As you can see, the expenses are many, and there's no way to avoid recurring expenses, as maintenance is forever. Again, I don't think it's justifiable to consider this sort of non-essential spending and commitment to future spending with the current state of the economy. Finally, when it comes down to it, the biggest problem with the proposed complex is the fact that nothing involved in the proposal seems to offer any value to anyone in the neighborhood. I think it's a given at this point that the readers know that I have no intentions of utilizing any of the proposed recreational services. And I have trouble understanding the necessity for such a complex, especially a great enough necessity to justify such sweeping changes to the surrounding community. Here in Portland, we already have a top-notch school system that offers plenty of opportunity for recreational activities for youth. We also have many other recreational opportunities open to the public. Many of them can be seen listed weekly in the River East Bulletin. While I can understand the passion of the Route 17 Recreational Complex Committee and their desire to create a fun and exciting place to congregate with our families, I am afraid they are trying to force their concept to a location that will not sustain it and will only be a detriment to the surrounding community. As a result, I must express my extreme opposition to any serious consideration of the Route 17 recreational complex at the proposed site. I strongly urge the committee to reconsider their plan to pave paradise and put up a parking lot. Sincerely, Dan Armstrong, Portland resident, property owner, taxpayer. And I will tell you, there may be other, that one just came in before, actually it came in tonight. That was at 6:23, so I didn't have a chance to download it for everybody.
But it really didn't address the cul-de-sac issue. It was more directed towards the project.
And when I get back to the office, I will see if there are more emails. There may be more, and I will certainly bring them to the next meeting. Is there anyone else that would like to address the selectmen?
Can I just ask you to recap
Sure.
what the recreational complex is going to include?
Sean, would you like to highlight that for us? Since my
Sure.
voice is getting a little... Sean Dwyer is our Director of Parks and Recreation.
Basically, the recreation complex, the process started, just to give everyone a recap, is in 2005, the land was bought from the town, and there was the town approved special hearing to buy the land, and one of the purposes was for recreation use, active recreation use. And then in 2006, the Parks and Recreation Commission did a master plan with 3 options of what that land would be for. I came on board in 2009, so this is a little new to me. So I know through the Parks and Recreation Commission, we have looked at a couple of the options, and one of the better options that we liked that was approved in 2006 was an option that had a variety of athletic, active and passive recreation use to the project. Over the last few years, we've been taking a look at what the possibilities would be. And I think there was at one time we had about nine different items that from the 2006 master plan that would be, and just from talking to obviously people that were looking for needs in the town, that it would work. Portland Little League and Portland Soccer Club were both looking for space. Right now, Portland Little League is bounced from different places, and one of our properties is a leased property. We don't own it, and it's going to need a good amount of work to it in a couple years. That's going to cost a lot of money. It will have to be most likely done just for safety concerns. The soccer club, once again, we'll talk, which is our next agenda item, has also property that we use that is leased property, which we don't own. They currently do not technically have any home. There's a lot of assumptions that, well, you have the high school, but they have very, very limited use of the high school facility. And then there's a lot of ideas about Oakwood Soccer, but that's private. That costs a lot of money for the soccer club to use it. And the other thing we had looked at one time, and we just did our basketball court, but at the time was we did not have a basketball court, was a basketball court. The other thing we looked at was walking paths and walking trails. As you looked in the back, in the master, in the plan, and I don't know, Kevin and Dave, is it still on the website? Or is it under the Parks and Rec? There should be, you could look at the conceptual design. I'll get into that in a minute. But the idea was to be able to give passive recreation to anyone who would want to go for a walk, whether it be through the woods or just in a walking path area. And then the idea was to have some sort of fitness trail. Believe it or not, in Portland, in just talking to some people, there's not necessarily a lot of kind of safe places to walk. You're out in the country and you're walking at hills and corners. For some people, it's not comfortable. People like to be, whether it's at the track at the high school or at Bransfield Park, there seems to be always a few people out there. So the park or the walking would give someone a area or people that can go for a walk in a safe area that's located. The other thing we talked about in our last meeting was it would also give us not a bike path, but for if you have a young families, young kids, and you do maybe live out in the country, it's a good place to get out there and bike, and we talked more about that in our last meeting as we've been going through it. The other thing that is a big concern in people in town is there's no real access to water. Obviously, a pool is the number one thing. I don't think that's going to be something that will be in the plan, but we've talked about a splash pad with a playground. A lot of young families in town have to go outside of town to go out, whether it's the mom's club or just to go to playgrounds or to go to a pool or to go to a splash pad. So the committee has been looking at the fact that a pool or a splash pad would be more of a reasonable price or a reasonable item to be able to put in the pool, so at least a lot of young families can get together, they can talk. And what I mean by that, I should say, is one of the things I've gotten for parents outside at the small playground we have is that there's no real place to go where you can be with other moms. And a lot of times parents or grandparents are home with their kids during the day, and this gives them a place that would be a social event. The other thing that's came up, which is it's kind of a concerning thing, the fact that we lost one of our leased properties, and this is what happens when we have leased properties, is our summer playground program used to use Noise Playground Camp, and this last year we were no longer to use it for a variety of reasons. We were able to use the schools, but the reality is the schools have 8 to 10 weeks to get those buildings up and running if they have any construction or any work or summer school. We are not necessarily the prime objective of what they have to do. So one of the things we had talked about was putting a possible cabin out there where we could, if we had to, have summer playground program. There's about 90 children in town, 90 families in town that use that program throughout the summer. And it's actually probably more because that's what we have about a week. But if we did not have a summer playground program or not a spot for it, it would be a situation where those families would be out a summer program. And the reality is a comment was made the other day, well, why can't you just go outside? But the reality is, over the last 5 years, I've seen more severe thunderstorms and weather coming through the system through here. And we've had too many close calls, even being out in noise camp. And to be in an area where we have no shelter is just, we couldn't do it. We couldn't do it. There's a lot of safety issues. You know, the other thing, with having a recreation complex, we don't really have a true, quote, park in town. And we've talked about that in the Parks and Rec Commission for quite a bit. We have fields, we have some athletic, but we don't have a park. So this is the location that is there. You know, I don't know if there's any perfect location, but this is the one that right now currently we have. As for the Recreation Committee, I just want to say is that we've taken a lot of time over the last year and a half. We meet every second Thursday, and we take a lot of time and thought and process in going to our meetings. Have lasted anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. After the October meeting, we have taken every consideration into that came out of that meeting, plus and minus, or positive or negative, I should say. And Ralph's been at a few of our meetings, and he can know that in November we sat down and we had 525 surveys done through the summer and through the fall with what people would like to see or not like to see there. And we've gone through it all, and we spent the month of November. We came up with 24 objectives, and we've been in the last 3 months going through them. And matter of fact, you know, one of the things that are on the agenda, we spent a long time actually on the buffer and what that would possibly look like. We've gone through the idea of, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought, but we were security, and that's actually on next month. We've taken a lot of time and thought and process in this. I do believe there is a need for a park in town. Just talking to a lot of the residents, and you know, from what we've gotten from our surveys, and we know that we are dealing with not a huge space. We've constantly talked about the financial constraints. We've actually talked about what can we do to make it as maintenance, I don't want to say free, but as manageable. We understand our limitations, and we do take it very seriously. So these are all things that have come into play. And
that's a good summary. I think
yeah.
it's important to highlight, as you're saying, Sean, is that the plan in 2005 was to purchase this 37 acres, 20 of which I believe we're working with for the active recreation for the purposes of recreation. And the plan is, because we don't own a lot of the fields that are currently being used, the Tomaso field we don't own Camp Ingersoll soccer fields, we borrow those, so to speak, or we use them for no money other than maintenance and upkeep that we pay for. I won't go into detail on that. But the plan was to have this area as a place to have soccer fields, baseball fields, passive recreation, the potential for maybe some fishing there at Carbrook, and maybe even a path for the cross-country team to have for their home meets, possibilities. We recently got a grant from the state of Connecticut, and that's what the committee, the volunteers, along with Sean and our planning department and our Parks and Rec Commission, are using those dollars. It's a $238,000 grant for planning purposes. So that is why tonight we invited you and people who responded in terms of the cul-de-sac. So this is a plan for us in terms of preparing to have an active recreation and a passive recreation park at what used to be called the Nelson Goodrich land. The cul-de-sac can occur previous to the implementation of the park. So regardless of how the park will be funded in terms of building the fields and getting everything completed, we can go ahead with making Strickland Street into a cul-de-sac. I have had not a lot of people live on Strickland Street, it's per se, but everyone lives just east of that area, as you know. And the biggest complaint is that the golfers, like you just said, they go to tee time and they're late. And the quick way is to take that shortcut down Strickland to Bartlett and then head out as fast as you can. Hopefully not, but I know that's what people do.
That's the shortest way from the.
It is. And, yeah. And there's a lot of children that live in this neighborhood, a lot of people that do walk. There's no sidewalks. But it is a very pleasant neighborhood, as has been read tonight. It's quiet, and it's well-maintained. And I think that having the cul-de-sac would benefit Strickland Street and could benefit your entire neighborhood. And that's really what we're talking about tonight, not so much the park, but of course, they're connected, and that's why these comments have been made. So if you wanted to just have a couple comments, I know you took the time to come. Could you tell us your name for the record? Would you like to go up to the podium? Well, we won't hurt you. Just don't trip on anything.
See what I mean?
Yeah, liability.
Take your time. Just give us your name, if you would, and your address.
All right, my name is Lou Girolami. I live on Michael Drive. My suggestion is, why don't you make a three-way stop instead of cul-de-sac?
Oh, stop the
Three-way
Route
stop
17 traffic?
at the end of the road there. They had a two-way stop at Bartlett Street, and we had all kind of accidents. Even a bus cut was involved at one time.
Yep.
They finally got the state to put a four-way stop sign, and as far as I know, in the last quite a few years, there has not been a serious accident.
Not that I'm aware of.
That's only a quarter of a mile to the left, and another mile down the road, you got another four-way stop at the end of Main Street and Route 17. You have no problem there. Now, if you have a three-way stop there instead of just a stop sign with Route 17 having the right-of-way at all times, you'd solve most of your problem.
Thank you. Good comment. Yes. Sure.
My name is Olivia Handy, and I have two comments.
Wait, can you
First-
just tell us the street you live on?
I live on Dolores Road.
Okay, thank you.
First of all, my bus goes through where the cul-de-sac would be. My bus barely gets into school on time, and it would make us late for school. So if you really cared about Portland, you wouldn't make the students late. And second of all, I think both of them are a horrible idea. I don't support either of them. Meaning the park
Okay.
interrupts many people that are elderly, live in my neighborhood. They go to bed quite early. How are they going to get sleep? Second of all, I go to school, so I sleep early. How am I going to get sleep on those nights that there will be soccer or football? And the cul-de-sac, just like other people had commented, could be possibly dangerous. Like my father said, the average speed is over 50 miles an hour. So, thank you, but I think they're both not good ideas.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Three-way stop would solve that, and slow the traffic down.
The issue is not just the traffic, that's part of it, but it's also the entrance and the exit to the future park.
It wouldn't change the traffic pattern.
No, but it could create the entrance and exit. See, if you're entering it or exiting right near where Strickland Street is
Put the
coming up.
three-way stop where you were gonna build a cul-de-sac at the beginning of the park.
So you have stop sign, you have four-way stop, and you have something on the top of the parking lot.
Like it that way. That's a terrible way this way, you shouldn't come on this way anyway. You shouldn't go on a kitty corner, you can't see to the left. If you make it a straight 45, you can even see better.
That is another thought.
Susan, what is the concern with Strickland Street and the park? Is it the amount of traffic that's now going to be on Strickland Street, or is it speed off of 17 or both, or,
It's a combination of.
yeah.
It's the shape of 17 too,
Yeah.
and the curve, and where you would enter and exit safely.
South traffic uses Bartlett Street, north traffic uses, what's the name of that street? I forgot. Well, there goes, that's what you call a senior citizen, you don't know, but.
Are you talking about Gospel Lane?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's north traffic.
Right.
So the traffic system will still be about the same.
You don't have, do you have a picture of the proposed park?
I have, no, I did not bring it today, but.
You were here for those presentations,
Yeah.
and they showed where
I was just
the
asking,
entrance and
I
exit.
assumed it was
It's more the
because
entrance and exit.
there was gonna be an increase in volume of
Yeah,
traffic,
that's
but
the
Yeah.
perception.
if the main
Perception is
concern
that
was
it's gonna
going,
increase, and then there's gonna be a problem for the neighborhood. People are gonna cut through that neighborhood coming to the park. So
Yeah, we
now
don't want
someone
that.
Increase traffic in
Both
that
ways.
area. Yeah, I guess you said it.
okay, I mean, cause if it was one way, then you make the road one way or something, but I don't know if
Possible, I mean, possible.
I'd suggest that the
It's-
selectmen
yeah.
take another drive out there. I'm sure you drive there quite often. Take another drive out, take a look at what we're talking about, and then take another look at the plans.
So you can visualize how you would drive it yourself if you were on that road.
And I have done that several times. And I'm the one that put those stop signs at John
I'd love to see that
Street.
turn this way, straight instead of kitty corner like that, because it's hard to get out.
It is. Yes,
Hi, my name is Molly, Smiles, and I live on Michael Drive.
okay.
And I think, for me, I think the recreation center is a great idea. My husband and I just bought there, last summer, well, this past summer. And we hope to have a family, it's a quiet neighborhood that we could walk around, but it would be easy access to go have recreation activities.
Sure.
My concern, I do like the cul-de-sac that's gonna be put there just because of the increasing volume.
Yeah.
I don't want cars parking in the neighborhood to cut through. If it's an easy walk through to the field, if there's not gonna be a fence up there, if they're gonna be cutting through yards.
There has to be a
This
fence.
would keep the traffic on 17 rather than come through, and I think that would cut down a lot of the speeding on that street anyway,
Mhm.
because then they wouldn't be going anywhere, it'd be the residents.
Okay, yes.
Okay, I'm Jerry, I live on Bel Air Terrace. I'm not in favor of the cul-de-sac,
Mhm.
for several reasons, one of which is, safety. I can't, visualize that there's going to be more traffic coming from our side of the neighborhood to get to the park. Because our
Can I
neighborhood-
excuse me, I just wanted to tell you that this meeting is being recorded, and there's no way that your voice will be
Oh,
heard
I-
unless you go to the microphone.
Okay. Excuse me. Sorry.
No, it's okay, I just want to be sure that there's a,
It's Pat Jerry.
it's not that we want everybody to go up to the mic, it's just so that if we have questions, we can go back to the tape.
Exactly. My name is Pat Jerry. I live on Bel Air Terrace. I'm not in favor of the cul-de-sac. Comments have been made as far as the traffic pattern. I don't visualize that the neighborhood is going to be the mass exodus to this park. I think most of the traffic will be coming from either Gospel Lane or 17. My concern is that if there is an emergency, we don't have another way out. We only have Bartlett Street, and if Bartlett Street is blocked based on like a Hurricane Irene, where there were trees down, where there was flooding, there's no other exit, unless we have to go up Bartlett and then down Rose Hill, and that's another issue altogether. I understand that they want to eliminate the traffic. I don't see that that's going to be an issue, but I will address this recreational complex because I'm new to this town, and I bought in that neighborhood because of the natural surroundings. I can't visualize a fence. I don't think you have enough room for these fields that you're anticipating. I don't disagree with having a park in town. I just don't know if that's the place for it. And if you close off Strickland Street, I don't know if that's going to benefit the people that are going to utilize the park or not. I think you're going to see more traffic on 17, which might be an issue. I also would like to know who will maintain it, who's going to pay for the liability for the insurance that's going to have to cover it. And as a taxpayer, I think we pay pretty high taxes in Portland as it is right now. And I don't think that's fair to us. Because, like the gentleman earlier was saying, that our population is not, it's decreasing in elementary schools, but it's increasing in the elderly and older clientele, I guess. So I don't know if that's a benefit to the whole town. I walk those neighborhoods, and I am a golfer, and I don't have an issue. Bartlett Street, more of a problem than Strickland, as far as people speeding, I think. So I just think it would be very inconvenient for the people who live in that neighborhood who want to get out onto 17 as well. But I am concerned about the safety, and I don't know if that's such a good idea.
Well, one thing in terms of safety, because I do think that's an important comment that's been mentioned several times. You can have it gated so that in the event of an emergency or in the event of a situation where you need to exit, you would be able to do so. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but that is a potential. We do that at Butler Lane, which is next to the high school, middle school complex. And there was concerns by that neighborhood when we built the addition to the high school and we built the middle school, that the traffic would be using Butler Lane because there'd be more people in that area. So 360 days of the year, that gate is closed, but those days where we have a big snowstorm, or if there was an emergency or a large activity up there that we needed the 2 exits, that gate is opened. And it's easy enough to open a gate. The firemen do it like that, as you know, and also Public Works. So that's just a consideration that I think we should keep in mind in terms of safety. Any other
How will
questions
it
for
look?
our-
How will it look? That's another
Mhm.
concern.
I'm not saying that we'll do
Right,
that, I'm
you're
just
putting, you're
suggesting.
gonna put up a gate, you're gonna put up fences, you're gonna put up gas lights. How will it look for the neighbors that live there now? Because you're gonna wanna play soccer at night. You're gonna wanna have games at night. You're gonna have to put up gas lights. How is that gonna affect the people who live in that
Mhm.
area?
That's a good comment.
And don't forget nature. We do have a lot of critters that live out that way.
Yes.
And so I think we're finally, you have to start considering infringing upon some of our little neighbors as well.
Thank you. Any other comments?
No.
Ian?
I was mentioned in the letter, so I'm Ann Hodge. And I have really mixed feelings about the gating. I do like the idea of, I like the idea of the gating, actually. I know that when we had that initial meeting about the proposal, I don't know how many of you realize it, but there is a house that is, if this is the field is here, their house is right here. And so for them, this is literally their backyard. And as we're talking about people coming in and out, one of the things that concerned us and a lot of the people in the neighborhood, I live on Gloria Heights, which is right here. So, one of the big things that concerned us was the access into the neighborhood. And how we get in and out. I think this is a neighborhood that walks. A lot of people are going to be in and out, and I know we were concerned about how much parking there's going to be. The parking was a real concern for us as we looked at, if you're talking about having soccer tournaments, how many people are you going to have? They said they might have 100 parking spaces. If you've got a soccer field, the soccer tournament, you've got baseball fields with baseball games going on. Is that really enough vehicle space to park your cars? And if you don't, then people are gonna be coming into that neighborhood to park. It's a neighborhood that walks. As somebody said, we're getting more and more kids in the neighborhood, a lot of young kids. If people are coming in our neighborhood to park, I'm concerned about the safety for our kids. I'm concerned about the safety of these people who live right here. Family that live right up next to the wooded area are concerned because you don't know who's gonna be up in those woods and how you're gonna have to secure that and how are you gonna limit access. So the cul-de-sac is a potential to maybe decrease some of the people who are coming and going into our neighborhood. But that safety issue is a concern. And the other piece of it is just, are we gonna have people parking in our area because they don't have any other place to park, which is gonna increase the traffic. If you've got the cul-de-sac, then they're not gonna have an easy way to get back through, so they're gonna be trying to walk through people's yards. So I think the parking is a consideration that has to be considered here, as well as this cul-de-sac, because you have to figure out where you're gonna put all the cars. And how do you keep the people safe in the neighborhood? That's it for now, other than my daughter wondering where the drugs sellers are gonna be, but, you know.
Thank you, Ann. Yes.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Handy. I live at 6 Dolores Road, and I don't like public speaking, which is probably not a trait I passed down to my child. I've reached out to you in the past, Susan, to say that I'm, vehemently opposed to this park plan, and that I work in New Haven. I'm not a fan of fences. I'm not a fan of gates. And anything that's industrial and city-like, that I chose to live in Portland. I actually turned down a house in the main town area because it was just too noisy, so that's how we ended up in quiet little Dolores Road. So I just wanted to reiterate that I'm vehemently against it. You have my email, and that I'm opposed to a cul-de-sac. I don't think that it's a good idea. I think it will cut off emergency services. 2 houses up from mine is a group home. Frequently, there are ambulances called. In the corner of our street, there's a gentleman whose wife is ill. Frequently, ambulances are called. This is not a kind of neighborhood where an ambulance comes, once a month. It comes much more frequently than that, and I would be very concerned about closing that area off. I think it was an interesting idea for the stop signs. I do think that the traffic will increase. I think that we need to reduce the likelihood that there's going to be traffic incidences, so I would implore you to look at the option of having a stop sign. I also like to say to Sean specifically, we have long since been supporters of the Park and Recreation. Did Time for Tots, and Zumba, Noise Camp. We have been 100% behind trying to support our town through those programs that you have offered, but I just don't want it in my backyard. I don't want my stars stolen. I don't want the noise pollution. I don't want the light pollution. I don't want the security issues. I don't want strangers wandering through. I pretty much don't want any of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much for your input. We certainly appreciate it.
I have one more thing if I get up there.
Sure.
Seeing as other people deviated, I'll do it too. We were talking about the cul-de-sac.
I'm Lou Girolami. I'm opposed to that sound barrier you're gonna put up in back of my fence, because there's gonna be too much noise from the soccer teams. Now, I've attended a lot of soccer games. I never heard too much noise. In fact, I'd like to watch the kids play. But they're talking about putting a sound barrier in my fence with trees and whatever else there's gonna be, because some neighbor of mine said there was gonna be too much noise, it would bother them.
You're talking about a,
I don't know what they're
trees and
talking
a
about. All I know
berm?
is on the map, it says sound barrier.
Berm, I think. Okay.
Am I right? Yeah. So, I mean, most people don't go outside anymore. They have heat, they have air conditioning, your windows are closed. And I never heard that too much noise from a soccer. And how many other soccer fields that the town has a sound barrier?
I get it.
That's just my comment.
Okay, thank you. Selectmen have anything to ask, or?
Can I just ask, I know you're
No, we're not there yet. No. These, we haven't built yeah, well, yes. Yes, and this is part of the planning process. It's not a done
So it's not like you
matter.
apply for grant money to have a facility built somewhere in town.
No.
You're just doing the study.
The land was purchased, and we paid a little less than $500,000 for the 37 acres for the intention of having a recreational park there. And that was brought to a town meeting, which passed overwhelmingly. And we've been paying for that at about $50,000 a year, and that's a 10-year pay plan. And that, I believe, ends in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. So in anticipation of the park, this is the planning process. Obviously, you can't just build the fields in a park without proper planning and taking a look at the land. Some of the land is not appropriate for putting a field because it's wooded or it's wet or it's hilly or something of that nature. So there are some areas where we can build. And typically, these kinds of plans, you're not typically given millions of dollars to do this work. You're given small amounts as time goes on, so you prioritize what it is that can occur. So while there may be an ultimate build-out for a parcel of this nature, you don't typically get that done like that. It's typically, maybe there's a need for a baseball field, so that would get built, or typically an area that we start to use so that we can become used to the use of the property. That's what we did with the Riverfront Park. There's no active recreation there, but there is a pavilion there, and there is some walking trails and things of that nature. So this is all part of the planning process. That's why we sent the letters to you. So this is not the last time you'll have chance for input. It wasn't the first. And I want to thank Sean for coming tonight, too. There's more to your need to be here tonight.
Just doing a quick announcement.
Yeah.
Just real quick is, the last two meetings, we have invited the neighborhood, because we want you guys to know what's going on. And we have done a lot of, from the meeting on October 10th, I believe it was October 10th, and we've been doing a lot of back work on a lot of the issues that we've, including a nature study and environmental study. So we've brought in people, and we're doing our best to try to take a look at everything. And Lou's been to a few of the meetings, and I think you've seen all our discussions. I do want to bring up, and anyone is invited to come on February 13th, 6:45 at the Buck Foreman Community Center. Will be a meeting, and then also Thursday, March 13th, 6:45 at Buck Foreman Community Room. You know, if you want to come, on the Friday, the February 13th one, what we're doing right now is we are going through from our conceptual design and giving our engineer basic what we want to put into the preliminary design. And so that's why we're going through a lot. And actually, some of the things we talked about today we'll probably be discussing. So if everyone's feel free to come. It's, and what we'll do is, if you have any questions or in doubt in the meeting, you can always call the Parks Rec office or Susan's office. We'll keep you up to speed. The last thing is, we do have the survey results. I don't know if there's something we can post or do whatever, if even the selectmen want to read.
Yeah, we should do that.
Like I said, there was over 500 people that responded to the surveys. I believe it was 420 to the second one and over 120 for the first one. So we have a lot of
That's good
information.
response, yeah.
And then there was 80 people at the public hearing in October, and we took it all down, so that's right.
Can we get the surveys emailed to us?
I'll
No.
send it, no, we
All
can't.
the results? I don't know. I
Yeah.
think it's pretty thick.
The PDF.
Yeah.
Can
I
we,
did PDF, I
can you
believe
email
so.
that? Is it too big, or is it something we
I
can do?
mean, I got it. I'm within the town, I'm
I can-
don't remember how big. don't
I can send it to you, first. I'll
Can
send
we
it.
just like
Okay.
screenshot like the important stuff?
It's not this thing.
Yeah. We'll get it.
I
We'll
think
do
we
it.
can get it to you.
Okay.
If not, I can get it to my office, or I think I have a couple copies if you want to
Okay,
get some.
yeah,
so.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks again, and we'll continue. The next item, if we're ready to move on, would be the anti-smoking campaign, and Mary Pont is here this evening, along with her guest. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. We're bringing this to you, Board of Selectmen, because this is something that, obviously, a situation has arisen that has been long ongoing. And I have with me tonight Gail McDermott. She has been an intern at Youth Services from September till December. She's laying over a little bit so she can do this presentation for me, because it's time. This is an issue that we have been looking at and addressing for a while, anti-smoking, and I'm going to let Gail give her presentation, and then we'll make some comments and get some comments from you.
Thank you for having me. Like Mary had said, the big concern is underage smoking, the possession, and also the distribution of tobacco within the community. And one of the other big concerns is actually right here at the Portland Library and the entrance to the Portland Library, and also the parking lots. I don't want to get into the whole smoking's bad for you. We've all been there, done that, we've heard it. You gotta move on. And this in no way is a way for us to alienate smokers, but it just is something that we want to initiate so that we have the choice. People who are non-smokers have choices. And I want to start by implementing into this little spiel I have that I actually went through this same thing at Middlesex Community College, where I attend. I'll be graduating in the spring. In the spring semester of 2013, I was on the committee that actually passed no smoking on the campus. It was very important. Just like here at the library, who wants to come to the library with an elderly parent or your little children and have to go through the smoke that's actually in the entranceway to the library? That doesn't give non-smokers the choice not to breathe it because it's there. And are you going to avoid the library because of that? Potentially, but we don't want that to happen. Breathing it, the secondhand smoke, we all know, it lays on you, it hangs on your lungs. Elderly adults with compromised health, of course, it just compromises their health even more. We can get into all the environmental aspects of it and everything else, but we'll stick to the surface. It's estimated that 27,000 middle grade students between the grades of 6 and 8, and also high school students between the grades of 9 and 12 smoke cigarettes. 2.9% of middle school students, which is very young, and then 14% are high school students. And something really needs to be done as far as our community and preserving the village of Portland and the outlook that we should be portraying to other people that come to visit the community, just come through the community or whatever. So what we're looking for are the key elements that we're looking for this successful enforcement for a program like this would be to designate an agency that would be clearly responsible for the enforcement of this proposal or this ordinance that potentially we could get moving on. And that would, of course, mean our police department. It is illegal for teenagers to possess tobacco. If you're under the age of 18, there are fines that can be instilled on them. And, you know, they're going to come home at, 15 years old with a $50 fine and hand it to their parents. I mean, how often is that going to happen? Once it happens once, there could be some in-home ramifications that could go on, and potentially it can decrease everything else that goes along with the smoking, the trash, and the health issues and whatnot. Adequate funding, which Mary has noted that there is funding that we would need for this program. That would mean signage that would have to be put into the community, because the best way to push a non-smoking program would be to have the certain ordinances and the certain areas and have it clearly stated that there is no smoking in these areas. And it also gives the community more power, or more a sense of power, where they can say, hey, you know, there's a sign over there, stop smoking. Mary has mentioned to me about a concert that had taken place down by the riverfront, and there were people smoking all over the place. When nothing is enforced, when there's no signage, where there's no real regulation going on, it just happens. It just keeps happening. So as the community, you have a little bit more power to say, hey, you know, let's stop the smoking. You can't smoke here, as opposed to it maybe ending up like a hockey game where they're fist fighting in the parking lot. I don't know. But let's hope that doesn't happen. So a local ordinance is one of the key elements. In other words, it's something that would pertain to right now. We would look at this particular area right here, which is the library, the senior center, over where the youth services building is and whatnot, which is a very big area. It would also have to include penalties for those that are caught smoking, especially the underage that are possessing and that are having it and are smoking. The police, by law, can actually fine anyone under the age of 18 that is in possession of tobacco or is smoking tobacco. It is the law in Connecticut that there are fines. It needs to be addressed, and it really needs to be followed up on, and action needs to be taken. Along with that, of course, is education, and educating not so much the health issues and everything, but more or less the actual ordinances in other towns, along with the state laws. A lot of people aren't familiar with the laws and kind of shrug it off. In the state of Connecticut, the Department of Health states that owners of any space can legally make their property tobacco-free, inside and outside. Smoke-free policies do not tell someone they must quit, only that they cannot smoke in this area. Most people don't like to play in a smoke area. The young kids want to smoke in a smoke-free environment, as well as adults. They don't really want their children around the toxins. And we would have to make a policy that is known to the complete community, along with the visitors, and that would mean, like I had stated before, signage, and clearly define the areas where we don't want non-smoking. And again, that will give the community and people in the community a sense of empowerment to say, again, we can't really smoke here. There's signs. And by making these designated areas, we're not alienating the people who do choose to smoke. We're just making sure that non-smokers have the choice not to be around them. Whereas right now, non-smokers may be coming into the library, they still have to deal with that. Which brings into some of the laws within the state of Connecticut, and it is suggested in the Connecticut General Statutes 53-344, Section C. I actually have this. We have this printed up for you, and we'll distribute the copies and reference notes and whatnot, so you can go back and look at it. That they recommend 25 to 50 feet circumference of a building because of the windows and the vents and the entranceways. The circumference from those should be anywhere from 25 to 50 feet. And here's a 25-foot ruler, I'm sure all of us are familiar with it. I could stretch it out, but I could probably tell you that from here to that entrance is barely 25 feet. However, I spent, and we know this isn't happening, I spent almost 45 minutes in January going around just the front part of the library and collecting. These are triple bags, so you can touch them. This is what I have, 45 minutes, just in front of the building. Cigarette butts and trash. Just, this isn't trash that I picked up, soda bottles or anything. It was strictly smoking related. The packaging and the cellophane, the butts, and again, I'm not gonna go into the environmental issues, but this will take hundreds of years for it to actually break down. It seeps into our soil, into our water systems, and so on and so forth. So, I guess let me make a long story short. What we would like to have is, and what we're asking is for us to start with the library, the senior center, I'm sorry?
Playscape area.
The playscape area, the gazebo that's over here, this big area right now, which is town property. But eventually, I think that one of the better things to do is to get into the bigger sections, other sections of the town, which would include the recreational areas, sports fields, parks, playgrounds, beaches, which we don't have, but any of the bus stops, any of the public events that go on that are outside, or even close to an entranceway, again, where any public event is being held. Fairgrounds and carnivals, farmers markets, the outside concerts, any family event, and even right down to the parades. By doing this, it will make our town better, I believe. It will decrease the underage smoking and the underage possession of the tobacco, and also the trash. It's a whole gamut of things that will make our town better. So,
I'll open it up to the selectmen for questions.
I think we should ban smoking on all town properties.
Would you
And
like me to?
You'll make, have designated areas that are far away from traffic areas, and carefully choose designated areas if you want that, but I wouldn't, whatever action we decide to take, I don't think should be limited to specific buildings or areas. I think it should be a town-wide policy.
What I can do is get some ordinances that other towns use through CCM and review them and bring them to
That'd
the
be great.
selectmen for a future meeting. I want to thank you for coming and sharing your
I just wanted
thoughts.
to maybe add a couple things to, if I
Yes,
could.
yeah.
What's that organization?
We're running a little short on time, but we're happy to.
In the legislature.
I know, we had other issues. The reason we're starting this conversation now is because it's winter time, and we don't see a lot of people. And I'm going to say people as in, the reason I'm really getting involved in this is twofold. First, part of what we do in youth services is prevention and education, and we have a serious problem with youth standing outside our library smoking. As Gail stated, the state law says anyone under the age of 18. It used to be just purchasing. It's not just purchasing, it's in possession of smoking. And we have 12-year-olds that are standing outside our library smoking.
Why aren't the police enforcing it? Sorry, you try.
Well, we're gonna,
I
Ryan,
mean-
as we're starting this whole process, I think that the education is the first thing. We want people to understand that we're talking about this and what we would like to have happen. And Gail just passed out to you one of the flyers that is gonna be put up around. She also mentioned the funding. I have funding through my prevention grant that will fund financing for signage, any of that, as well as I've talked to MIXAC, which is Middlesex County Substance Abuse Council. which our grant funding for our prevention council comes through, and also have possible extra funding through them to do some educational pieces and bring people into town if we want to do the educational piece. But the main thing is to start to move forward with this. We need your support on this. I looked at downtown because I know that we have issues here at the library, the senior center, with people that are coming and going in and out of the senior center, the seniors, in our playscape area where we have young children. So we were starting downtown. It would be wonderful if we said town property and covered a lot of that, but I think if we start small, we can move toward that. So.
As far as the police actually enforcing it, like Mary had said, we start with the educational aspects of it. And then, once the police are notified, you know, let's keep an eye on this, just actually the presence of them, like, you know, walking the front of the library or at the concerts down by the river or whatever, just their presence and the signage that we are proposing to have put up.
Most people will comply.
Most people will
Yeah.
comply. It's just a matter of, like Mary had said,
Educating and
educating and actually getting forward to, you know, boundaries.
And I think once one or two of our 12, 13-year-olds has a $50 ticket to start out with and has to figure out where that money's coming from, news will travel fast. And hopefully they're going to understand that they're not going to be able to smoke. Hopefully understand the cost of smoking is far higher than they ever expected. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Appreciate it very much. It's nice to have you come tonight. And thank you, Mary, as well. So I will put that on a future agenda for our consideration. Is that okay? The
Yep.
ordinance for consideration, not Samantha. I thought you wanted to say something. You all set?
Better not.
Okay. We'll have more discussion. Yeah, I think that baggie bothered him.
I do have a question though, like, could we, like, school bus stops, isn't that town, or isn't that state property?
It's not town property.
Yeah, so how would we?
It depends. It could be private property. It could be.
Yeah, and like a parade, if someone's smoking a cigar on their front yard, you know, like, you really can't do anything.
I don't really want to prolong the discussion. I think
Okay.
that when we have the ordinance, Gail, if you could come back, we'll have more discussion on the specifics, because I don't have the answers. I don't think any of us do,
But there are
until we
things
have
that
an
I've
ordinance.
provided on those papers that you can actually go in and you can look at the.
Pardon me.
You can actually look at the laws that are, and the suggestions that the state of Connecticut is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We're also gonna give you a copy from the school policy.
Just a reminder for the school policy.
Thank you. The next item is a resolution for lease agreement between the town of Portland and the YMCA. And you do have a sample in front of you. We do not pass this tonight. We bring it to a town meeting. But Sean and Ralph are here. And you wanted to increase this to a 5-year lease. It's proposed as a 3-year, because that's the way it is currently. But if the Selectmen and the Park and Rec Commission are recommending 5 years, we can amend this and send it to a town meeting as a 5-year lease agreement with the YMCA as opposed to 3.
I have a question about it.
Go ahead.
Earlier in his presentation, Sean said that for various reasons, we're not playing soccer there anymore. Did I understand that correctly? Okay. But is it limited? I don't, what didn't I understand about that? There was something about playing soccer.
I think you said there was some work that would need to be done.
That was Tommaso.
That was Tommaso?
No,
Tommaso baseball.
so there's no limitation on the use of the.
We're not using noise camp anymore.
No, it was noise camp.
Oh, okay. That's
For a
right.
variety
I
of
confused
reasons,
it.
and I
I
remember him
apologize.
saying that,
I
yeah.
think I'm just tired. Thank you.
The
Yes,
fact
it was
that they can terminate in 90 days doesn't, I don't object to the 5 years, but I don't know what benefit it really would give us.
For the 5 years.
Yeah, to the 5 years. I mean, you can, in 90 days, you can pull out anyway.
The soccer club came to us 3 years ago with this, and
to be honest with you, it was the exact same time when, I had a family issue that happened, so, we just didn't get the final details, but they wanted to come that time, 3 years ago, to 5 years. And, the reason why, and Chris Donahue, the president's probably the better one to talk to, but one is that it would just give us more security, because, that is a very important facility for the soccer club. It houses the entire pre-K, kindergarten, and recreation soccer program, as well as the ABA travel program. So basically, the majority of the Portland PD program from any child 11 under 11 and 3 is playing on that facility. So it would give us a security. We have a very good partnership with them. I just talked to Tony again on the phone, to feel there's an issue with it.
He doesn't.
He doesn't.
I think the 5 years, and Fred is correct, it doesn't bind the YMCA or us.
Right.
Because there is a method for not continuing. But it gives the town's intention to continue to maintain and make improvements to those fields. You do spend a considerable amount on those fields in terms of care, upkeep, but we do not own those. So the YMCA is generous enough to let us use those fields, but we pay for it, if you will, by the in-kind service of maintaining those fields. So it gives the intention that we intend to continue to use
So
them.
It's more of it's more loaded than to, or designed to show the why that we are interested in a longer-term
Yeah.
commitment. Is that what you're?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Hypothetically, if we were to have the park that we were talking about on the Goodrich property, would we still need these soccer fields?
I'm working on it right now. I just went over the commission meeting on Monday night for the whole field usage. Within the 5-year frame right now, I
Mhm.
don't foresee us not needing the camping yourself.
Okay.
See that right. Down the road, if the recreation complex gets built, with some of the visions that we have, I would say yes, then we probably at that point will not need camping yourself.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that, we don't.
And we don't know. I mean, as we discussed earlier tonight, the funding for all of these fields is not in place. So we
Yeah.
certainly want to ensure that
Is
we
it
have
5
these
years out,
fields.
though?
I don't
guess,
know.
Yeah.
It's already been since 2005 that we bought the land. It's just a short, time goes by quickly.
This meeting is.
So what I'm asking is that we have a town meeting where everyone can come vote on this lease agreement, because by charter we're required to do that, for the 5th of February here at the library at 7 o'clock. Is there a motion to that effect? So moved by
Second.
Brian, second by Carl. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. So if you could come back at that time for that vote. And it will be 5 years, not 3 years, on that lease agreement. We'll move on now to refund of excess payments. Brian or Mark? Whoever's
I
ready.
don't care. I can do it. You wanna do it or you want me to do it?
I just have to find it.
Gregory.
I move that the town refund $146.08 to Gregory J. LaPlante or Shannon K. LaPlante.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
And $98.53 to Donald F. Kimball and Colleen M. Kimball.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Good night, Sean.
Good night.
See you. Status and committee reports. Fred, did you want to give a brief report? I know it's not on here, but perhaps you'd like to give a brief report on the legislative committee that met tonight?
Sure. And then we did meet. I thought it was productive, and we had several thoughts that we would try to have our legislators advance in the next session. One was trying to deal with Tryon Street. the concerns that were raised have been, we discussed at our last meeting, and the direction that we gave the legislators, or will give the legislators, is that they should consider working with the Glastonbury delegation to see if there's some joint effort that can be bear fruit as far as finding solutions to the safety issue. Even the chief was here and did mention the fact that they can get through, which is comforting in an emergency. However, that still doesn't address the issue of fire. If there's a fire and there's a flood, the fire apparatus can't get down there, nor does it address the school issue. If there's a flooding, the kids can't get to school. So it's something that will be taken up by the legislature, and Mark had a suggestion that we do something with safety, school safety, our highway safety, and see if they can secure some grant money for some of the electronic signs that we can use in town. And you have something else, Mark, I think you...
Trees.
Yes, to try to find some grant money for some selective tree cutting and providing more security for our town infrastructure.
Thank you. Anything else, Mark?
Any-
Dad or Ryan?
No, that was it.
Okay. The Water and Sewer Subcommittee, actually, it was Carl, myself, Rick Kelsey, and was there one other person? Dave Kuzminski, yes. And we- Going around the room, along with the executive director of operations, chief operating officer at MDC. And we had actually a long conversation with him, and talked about many issues associated with water, not the least of which are water rates, and how they charge, and how it would be if the town of Portland were to be a member of MDC. He is supposed to send back to me information, which I haven't received yet. We met, the very end of December, wasn't it? So we will await his information from him. It was a very productive meeting in terms of learning how they charge for their water and sewer rates, and also the many capital projects that they have going on. Our water system and our sewer system both have deficits, so we are very actively pursuing the future of our water. We certainly need to ensure safe water supply, as well as how we charge for it, and also do capital improvements. Whether or not we want to maintain as is, whether or not we want to expand the system, whether or not we want to have another system buy us, whether we want to have another system manage us. There are many, many options on the table, and there is a subcommittee, along with the full Board of Selectmen, which acts as the water authority and the sewer authority for the town of Portland. So we're in the process of working on this. Dave and I also had a meeting with the Health Department and a representative from the State Health Department and a representative from Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. It was a very high-level talk again about how water and sewer works in communities, and their support in terms of how and what we're trying to do. Dave and I wanted to apprise them of what we're attempting to do. We'll also be continuing these conversations. I do have a call into Connecticut Water Company, and I'm also going to be visiting with the town of East Hampton, because they have similar needs, not the same as ours, but our sister community also has a need for quality water. Water, they say, is the new gold in our world, and Connecticut, and in particular Portland, is actually blessed with potential. We have a lot of water sources, and yet the majority of our water comes from actually the Farmington River through MDC. So again, like we're doing with our parks, we're trying to plan the future for the water and sewer needs of the town of Portland. And any time you do this, it takes a long time before you actually see major changes. So we'll continue to keep you up to date. And I want to thank Dave as a member of the Water and Sewer Commission, as well as the members of the Selectman Committee, Rick Kelsey, and other members of the Water and Sewer Division. There's a lot of work ahead of us. And what I plan on doing is mapping out for you some of the things that I see that we should be doing and get some input from you at a future meeting. Okay, thank you. Did you want to add anything?
The only thing that I would add is I'd like to give some consideration to hiring a consultant as far as this goes, because,
Well, we also touched on that too, Brian, about them doing consulting. That was part of the thing.
I mean an independent consultant.
Well, let's see what
Yeah.
we get from
Sure.
that first.
Did they talk about what they wanted from the town, per se?
Yeah, they did, a little bit. They want water and they want customers.
Yeah, like any of our wells or anything like
They
that?
want water? They
Yeah,
have
were-
more
yeah,
water
they're-
than they need.
You know, just the
MDC
idea
has
of it, but most of
a
it was-
lot of water,
Well, I just,
fortunately.
at our initial meeting, they just basically, didn't they ask us, well, what are you gonna give us, you know?
They're gonna see how we blend our town and their municipality together, so we have a common goal further down the line. Right now, I think that's where we stand, that's where we're at.
Well, we talked about a few specifics, there was nothing conclusive, Ryan.
Okay.
It was more, a lot of information about how the Metropolitan District Commission operates, and also the major project that they have going on in terms of their water pollution control. A tremendous project that they have going on, and how they charge for that, for member communities, and then how they charge for customers. Portland is a customer of the Metropolitan District Commission, with 1 meter. All the water comes in, and then the town pays MDC, and then all of our customers in the town pay the town to reimburse us for what we pay for MDC, as well as debt service and operating services. So we talked a lot about water rates, and I would call it a very, as I said, I learned a lot, a tremendous amount, and I would be happy to share with you details as we proceed. They gave us some details about charges and the projects, and how
Structure.
different towns are structured, yes.
Well,
It was a
I'm
very
just-
good meeting.
Yeah, I just was wondering because I know, we have another 15 years on our contract as it is, right?
Yeah, about 13. I
Or
think.
13,
Yep.
and so I remember what they said, well, you know, we're already buying our water from them. So what incentive, and we already have a contract with them, what's the incentive on their end to give us any better rates?
It's access to more customers,
Okay.
definitely.
So that's
And
what they're looking for.
And it's also contiguous service from here out to our fellow customers such as
Yes.
East
So they
Hampton.
want East, yeah, okay.
You know,
So that
and
makes
there's a
sense.
whole, there's
Yeah,
the
exactly.
whole sphere. You know, it's not just little sections, you know, you get this for this, for this for that. It's like the whole, what are we gonna be doing as, in a 20-year plan, a 50-year plan, a 100-year plan? I think that's where we're out right now. As far as like immediate relief or help to our customers,
Mhm.
their structures are different, how they charge difference as a servicer. You know, like, I think they get, what is it, $15 per well?
I don't remember the
Something like that, where
specifics.
we get less, they get, or maybe it was 50,
He's talking about the base.
yeah, the basis, how the
Charged.
thing, wasn't even had to do with cubic feet of water, it was actually how they set them.
I would anticipate, Brian, that we would have a whole meeting dedicated to this topic,
Well,
where
several
we could
meetings
get
is gonna
into
be.
some of the design for what we want to get, and how we're gonna go about getting either a consultant, as well as some additional information. And,
I'd like
we're
to-
starting to work
I think
on
a
that.
consultant would be, yeah.
The next item is public comment. The next item is general informal discussion.
Yes, Susan, I have a really quick question,
Yes.
Beck.
Yes, Carl.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch it earlier.
Yep.
Or, on our, board and commission?
Yes.
I just wanna see if Peter Samuelson, for an alternative.
I
would be
was
interested.
told that he contacted the planning office and asked that he not be reappointed at this time.
Okay.
Because I asked about that this afternoon,
Well,
in
I
preparation
just
for
wanna make sure
tonight.
that's on here
Yeah, that's why I didn't mention his name, because he had asked to, at least at this point, he's not interested in the
for, thank you.
Thank you. I have nothing on the follow-up, so I have a brief information on land acquisition. I need a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Second by Carl, all in favor?
Aye.
You'd like to take a brief break?
No, let's get
We'll
this
clear the
right
room.
through.
Go.